Start in just a moment. We celebrate stories of our families, stories of the past, stories of the present, and stories of the future. Texas would simply not be Texas if it were not for the bravery, the courage, and the devotion of our Tejano patriots, such as Colonel Juan Seguin and his Tejano Texas Volunteer Company, and the excellent statecraft of Jose Antonio Navarro and Jose Francisco Ruiz, who helped shape the early Texas Republic and the Texas Constitution. But Texas would also not be Texas if it were not for the stories of million hardworking, very proud Americans of Hispanic descent who work every day to make our economy strong, protect our communities, protect our country, and our borders. Part of Hispanic heritage is, of course, the strong sense of family that we all feel. As parents, we want what's best for our children. And we know that a good quality education is key to a more productive and successful future. The special session that Governor Abbott has called deals precisely with that, empowering parents with more options to make better education choices for their children. Now, before we get into today's discussion, I have two special guests that have come a very long way. They've come from Wisconsin to share their personal stories of how school choice has impacted and affected their lives. They're fellows with the American Federation for Children. And at this time, I'd like to introduce both Giselle Vera and Sharon Chavez. And Giselle, why don't you come up first and share your story with us all, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. So I want to start off by giving you a little bit of a background context of how I benefited from the program in Wisconsin. So I was originally born in the US, but raised in Mexico. So coming back in 2014 to Wisconsin, it was difficult for me to navigate just because I had to relearn a lot of stuff, relearn the language, and reestablish myself in the US. So what I had forward was that I wanted to get an education. And at the time, I was like, any education would have been better than the opportunities that existed in Mexico for my family. But quickly, integrating myself into Milwaukee, I realized that not only did any education matter for me, but it was really a quality education what was going to make the difference. So coming from a very proud immigrant household, education was the foundation of why we had made this journey. So in what I like to think was my saving grace was the fact that we had such a strong school choice program working on behalf of Hispanic and underrepresented communities in Milwaukee. So I had the opportunity to enroll in a Catholic school in 8th grade, when originally I was meant to go straight into high school, but that choice was being in an overpopulated high school that was not necessarily helping students succeed and get to college, which was my end goal. So I decided to enroll in that middle school and repeat 8th grade and catch up. So after that, I learned about Cristo Rey Jesuit High School, which many of you may know of. And that was a school that prioritized graduating and going to college, but also it gave students a unique experience, which was to have an internship in corporate companies. So to me, that was like incredibly valuable because the end goal was to be able to work somewhere after graduating. From being a student that didn't know how to speak English and didn't know how to do a lot of stuff, I ended up graduating top of my class and becoming the first valedictorian of Cristo Rey Jesuit High School, Milwaukee. And so the major takeaway of that story is that my story was indeed successful. I ended up receiving not one full ride, but 3 to colleges like Marquette, Georgetown, Holy Cross. But to think that if I would have been a student in the state of Texas, that story probably wouldn't have happened. And so the impact is that all it took was an opportunity, an alternative path for my potential and my dreams to be nurtured in a system that was established to encourage my growth instead of having me fight against all the disparities that exist in our country for families like mine. And so I am really happy to be here in this time because it's an incredible opportunity for the state of Texas and the families of in our community to have a different alternative to what is the norm and make stories like mine part of the norm and not the exception. Thank you.
Sharon, you ready? Come on.
So hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Chavez, and I, too, come all the way from Wisconsin. I was a beneficiary of the Milwaukee Parental School Choice Program, but I had the experience of attending both a public education and a private education. And so I firsthand have witnessed the vast differences between them. So I, too, am a first-generation American with Hispanic parents. And they immigrated here into the US and decided to enroll me just in the first school that they found, which was a public elementary to middle school. However, here I struggled a lot, and the school environment was definitely not the fit for me. I recall an average school day just consisted of me going into my desk, talking with my friends, playing cards, eating chips, while the teacher was out somewhere just on his phone, scrolling, watching YouTube videos. Education was not taken seriously there. And I did end up graduating, but little did I know that I was really behind in my education because of the type that I received. When my mom and I were looking to which high schools to apply to, we came across Cristo Rey as well. And she told me, apply. It's a private school. It's going to be different than the one you've attended, but let's just see how it is. And because school choice is in Wisconsin, the application process was very simple. We did not have to think twice about how we are going to pay the tuition or anything else. So when I attended Cristo Rey, I tested my math knowledge along with every other of my classmates. And I came to realize that I was so behind. All of the other classmates came from private educations because it's kind of the norm. If you went to a private middle school, you're going to go to a private high school. But here I was being very behind and just feeling like a failure. But luckily for me, Cristo Rey had all the resources necessary to help me and push me and encourage me to do better and to be better. And in the end, I went from being a student who was very behind in my education to graduating with honors from Cristo Rey. And I found this new love for education that I ended up going to a private university called Marquette University and pursued 2 majors and 2 minors, all in 4 years, and graduated with honors as well. Thank you. And I like to think that this would not have been possible if it weren't for the fact that school choice was available. I previously had felt like a failure. I felt like school wasn't for me, but in reality, that was far away from the truth. It wasn't me, it was the education that I was receiving that was not up to the standard that it had to be. And I know that there are students here in Texas who probably feel like me, who think they aren't good at school, who think they're a failure to their Hispanic parents or families who value education. I felt like a failure, but it wasn't me. And to those kids in Texas, I want to let them know that you're not a failure. You just need the right school. And that's why we all have to fight for these kids to be able to have the right school and have these choices. And to all of you, I am very hopeful that this will be passed, and let's keep fighting for it to be passed. And once it does, just be open to it and keep the school choice movement going. So thank you.
How about that, folks? This is why we are so passionate about school choice. And I am so thankful for the American Federation for Children for allowing and flying in Giselle and Sharon to share their stories, because I wanted to share those stories with all of you and the rest of Texas of what can be done in this state, okay? We know that there are many Giselles and Sharons out there that need help. So thank you so much for both of you for coming. All right, we are now going to pass over to the actual panel discussion that we're going to have. I want to apologize in advance. One of our speakers, unfortunately, was not able to make it, Abraham Enriguez from Bienvenido. He's out in Lubbock and was not able to make different flight connections to join us this morning. But I do want to call the other panelists up to the stage. So if you could please come join me, and we're going to have a nice little chat.
Test one.
All right. So, unfortunately, Abraham was not able to join us, but we do have two dear friends of mine, and that is the very lovely Cassy García, who is president of Hispanic Republicans of Texas, and also their 501c3 organization, Hispanic Leadership Alliance, and my dear amigo, Isidro Garza. Isidro is one of the few people that have been in the trenches longer than I have, and I have total respect for him. He was the national chair, education chair for LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, which is the oldest Hispanic organization that advocates for Latino rights. And he now currently serves as the Southwest Education Chair at LULAC, and he came all the way from Houston to join us. So let's get into the conversation. So as you all may know, TPPF has been a longtime advocate for school choice. In fact, it was one of our founding issues a little over 30 years ago. And we're still at it. And we're still at it because we think it's very important, right? Because it's about the kids. And I think that we can all agree that a good quality education is perhaps one of the best legacies that we can leave our children. And I think that we can all agree that there are many schools, many public schools in Texas that do a very good job at this. But I think that we also have to realize that there are some that unfortunately do not. Unfortunately, there are many Texas economically disadvantaged students, particularly black and brown students, that are not receiving the quality of education that we as society owe them, and that, quite honestly, they deserve, and that they need to be successful in life. According to the data from the Texas Education Agency, there's about 58% of Texas students are not at reading at grade level. And 58% of Texas students are not at grade level in math. And sadly, there are over 1 million students attending 1,900 schools that are either low performing or failing, that have student achievement scores of less than 70%, which obviously is not good. Low-performing, failing schools are elementary schools. I don't know if y'all knew that, but the majority of them are elementary schools. And what happens is what I call systemic failure. That you have a low-performing, failing middle school that feeds into a low-performing or failing middle school, and that feeds into a low-performing or failing high school, right? So it goes from elementary to middle to high school. These kids really don't have a chance, right? They're being set up for failure. Now, Governor Abbott has a vision to try to help these students, okay? And he wants to do that by empowering parents to have more options so that they can choose a better education for their children through education savings accounts.
Rafa,
right?
may I interject, please?
What?
May I interject?
Yeah, no, just let me finish my thought, and I'm going to throw out the question to both of you. And that we, those parents, if we're able to do the education savings accounts, will be able to have the opportunity to kind of direct that money to the school of their choice and make, or for better education services that better suit the needs of their children. So I just want to set the stage for the discussion, just throwing it all out. And then with that, let's just dive right in, Isidro, since you're chomping at the bit. Let's go ahead. Go
Yes,
go
I
for
am.
it.
Yes, I am. Is it working? Yes.
Yes.
My dear friend Rafa, yes, we're dear friends and till the death. Irrespective of what we go through, what the outcome of this one that's right in our face. You started off by saying that you're passionate about school choice, and I see that. I'm so proud of these two young ladies, okay, and what you've done. I am passionate about public schools, and actually, I'm passionate about public schools and school choice. I'm passionate about whatever works best for our students, and I also want to make sure that we understand. I have a lot of respect for the governor. We've had conversations this past week with his office, with Mike Morath, trying to see how we can come to something that works for everyone. And so, yes, there is a lot of benefit to have an alternative, but we must also recognize that there are a lot of good schools in public schools. We have a lot of good products that, like these two young ladies that come out of our public school system. We must recognize that. Where we focus in on can we make our schools better, and we all know we can. They're not performing at the level that we should. And before I go any further, I want to recognize my dear friend, State Rep Richard Raymond. And if you would say just a few words, I'm fixing to talk about you, but would you care to say a few words?
You kind of put him on the spot.
Janie and I were up too late last night at a dinner. Isidro's one of my old friends. He invited me to come up and listen today, and that's why I came. I guess I'd gotten an invitation. We get so many emails that I didn't even remember about this, to be honest with you. And but Isidro and I have known each other. Man, I look around here, and some of you weren't born yet. Actually, a bunch of you weren't born yet. 1985, when I was working for Senator Benson. Again, many of you don't know who that is. He was a United States Senator, Lloyd Benson, and so I worked for him, and Isidro was a city manager, had been city manager in Eagle Pass. That's when we met. Yes. And I can tell you, one of the things that we both agree on is our passion for education. I am a Longhorn, he is an Aggie. That aside, both public universities, both public institutions. My mother was a school teacher, public school teacher for 35 years, so you can imagine how strongly I feel about public education in the state of Texas. But, you know, I certainly could engage in a long debate, but I'm not on the panel, and I'm going to let you guys do that. But thank you, Isidro, for inviting me. Thank you for welcoming me when I got here. Thank you as well. And glad to see all you all here. We will no doubt engage on this issue. Great to be with my colleague Janie here. We'll engage on this issue as we have for many years. I got here 30 years ago to the House, and we've been debating it since. So we'll probably debate it for another 30 days, for sure. At least for another 30 days.
Let's have a loud round of applause for our state rep.
Thank you. Representative Raymond, on behalf of the Texas Public Policy Foundation and Representative Janie Melendez, thank you so much for coming and listening, right? And that's all we ask, right? Yeah. You know, because first of all, we're all very proud Texans, and we all want the best for our children. And you know, the process of government is going through and having these conversations on how we can best achieve that. But that requires the ability to sit and listen, which is perhaps one of the most important qualities that we all must have. So I appreciate you all for coming and participating with us.
So I would also like to add to that is that the session that of course the only person that can call it is the governor, but the legislature is also credited we want to talk about it. Is there something on the table or something not on the table that we need to look at? Remember, Rafa, 2 weeks ago, I agreed to be on the panel, and then I dropped out.
Right.
And then I came back in. Why? Because whenever we see that there is actual respect and dignity and our dialogue is open and that we listen more than we speak, why would I not want to be a part of it?
And I deeply appreciate it de todo corazón, my friend. We are amiss, right? So, Cassy, let's bring you into the conversation, and please share your thoughts with us regarding how you feel about parental empowerment.
So first of all, I just want to say thank you to Rafa, my good friend, for inviting me to be here today, and thank you to the Texas Public Policy Foundation for leading the charge on school choice, and the governor as well. And so this is a healthy dialogue. I know we've been talking about this, and thank you to State Rep Richard Raymond and Janie Lopez for being here as well, and to our elected officials. And thank you for sharing your stories. Those stories need to be told and heard, and I'm glad you're here because we can share those stories. Look, as we're talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, I'm an Hispanic American. Just like all Americans, I love this country so much. We talk about national security, the economy, but you talk to most Hispanic families, they want educational freedom, opportunities for their families and for their children. That's so, so important. And so I'm a product of public school education. My parents are retired teachers after 35 years in the school system. But I've, talked to parents, and they want educational freedom. And so I'm excited to see this. We're in session right now. I know there's a lot of stigma. It's about school vouchers. You hear about, you're taking money away from the school system, but I believe it's empowering the parents to choose the best education regardless of zip code. I think every parent should have that choice for their kids, and I'll tell you a real quick story. I met a superintendent, he's long gone, and I don't know if you remember him, Dr. Nelson from, I believe it was United ISD, and was it? Laredo. Dr. Nelson, he's passed on, right? Yeah, he's a superintendent, and I remember meeting with him, and this is my time. I used to work for Senator Cruz for about a decade, and I was sitting with the superintendent. You'll never hear this from a superintendent saying, you know what, I support school choice. I nearly fell out of my seat. I said, well, I didn't fall out of my seat, but I said, he says, yes. He goes, Cassy, I support school choice. And I said, why is that, Dr. Nelson? I said, you never hear a superintendent telling you that story. He says, you know what? It's about empowering my teachers. If I empower my teachers are going to teach the students to success, right? And if they're not, then the parents should take out their child and put them in a school that they're going to succeed. He's like, I want every child to succeed. So I'm super excited to see that the governor's called session, Texas Leg back here. Again, it's about giving that the parents the freedom to choice, and also talking about the accounts as well. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And you raise a couple of good points, right? And and Isidro, I want to get back to you with some of the things that you raised, right? And I think that there is a win-win scenario possible, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Listen, those win-win scenarios are always the hardest ones to achieve, but they're, quite honestly, the ones that we have to work the hardest for, right, to pass them, because they're the ones that really matter. And, I know that there's, there've been a few people out there casting aspersions on parental empowerment and school choice and education savings account, and how they would hurt the public school system. And we have certainly long advocated here at Texas Public Policy Foundation that the public school system is vital, and it needs to be strengthened. And we have applauded the governor and the legislature. I mean, you've all done a tremendous job in ensuring that public education is fully funded. And if I'm not mistaken, there was just a $10.3 billion increase towards public education that was approved by the legislature and approved by the governor, signed by the governor, And that's on top of the $85 billion that's already in the budget. So we're looking now at a public education budget of, what's that, $95.3 billion.
That's a place for applause. Let's have a loud round of applause for
that's
what has
absolutely
been
tremendous.
accomplished.
And that only happens because of the hard work of the legislature, both sides of the aisle, and the governor all coming together because they do realize that that's very important. Okay?
Now, my state rep, all due respect, all our Hispanic representatives, we have 340,000 students in our represented by Hispanics that are in failing schools. One is too many. So we say, okay, let's protect public schools. How do we protect public schools? Not one penny of this session will come from public schools. We will have an increase for teachers. Everyone wants that, but we must define it before. Let's not play games, political games. Let's come to a solution. Define quantify what each teacher will be getting, or how it's going to be divided. Thirdly, can I show a slide?
Do we have a slide available? Okay.
How's she thinking what I'm thinking? Okay. I'm going to switch back a little bit to national heritage. This convention was in 2015. In 2015, as we are today, as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we celebrate that the First Lady is an Hispanic. And we had never had an Hispanic First Lady. And so to that, we applaud. What a great time we're living in, that we have risen someone from our ranks, someone that immigrated from Mexico, raised to the ranks, and now she is a school teacher herself, and our First Lady for the state of Texas. I'd like to loud round of applause for our First Lady. So we recognized her in 2015 through a LULAC convention. How many people would say LULAC is recognizing a Republican? LULAC is bipartisan. She deserves it. And then not only did we recognize her, can I have the next slide, please? She recognized what LULAC has done. It's important for that to happen. Here's a sad story, and I hope it doesn't happen in this session. The sad story of this great story is, in the very last week, somebody poisoned the well. Somebody went to the governor and stopped all communications from the governor's office or from her office to LULAC, and she did not attend. How sad. We cannot allow that to happen. We need to work together, and since I changed my direction and came back to this, one of the most important things that we need to do, can I have the next slide, please? Not that one. That one. I have 3 kids. I'm an engineer, a class of 73 Aggie. We have an engineering company. My 3 boys, one is an RPLS, the other one's about to get his RPLS, and the other one is an economics major. The day before Cesar Chavez March in San Antonio, I'm part of Cesar Chavez Legacy, an educational foundation. I marched with Cesar Chavez in California. I learned from him, directly from him, some of the characteristics that I think has guided my life and what I teach my sons. My little grandkid came out of 4th grade. He had just studied 4th grade Texas history. And he comes to me, he says, and remember, we drove from Houston to San Antonio for that 50,000 people march. And the day before, he takes me, he says, Grandpa, can I have a conversation with you? Yeah, here's a little kid who wants to have a man-to-man talk. We go outside, and he takes me to the woodshed. And he says, Grandpa, we're the bad guys. We killed all the good guys, and we burnt them. That's what we're teaching in our schools. That needs to change. We can talk about everything else, but how that young a boy or girl feels about themselves in fourth grade, and that's where I met my dear friend Linda in fourth grade. Many, many years back. I hadn't seen her in about 50 years, but she decided to come. I saw her today for the first time. At fourth grade, if you feel that you are less than, that you're not a full Texan, that you are not the one who fought for liberty and dignity, for the independence of Texas, that we are the bad guys, we need to change the school. Thank you. So since then, I have gotten a call from Mike Morath. Mike Morath is my friend. I've known him for 3 years. And we fought through differences. Not fought, discussed. And I got a call from him 2 days ago. He wants us to join his effort in how the TEKs are written. And that's where you get real change. We'll go in there in the history books, strike everything that's divisive, and bring in everything that gives pride to those who are not white, who are maybe Hispanic, and be proud that of the blood that runs through our veins. That's the only way that our educational system will be taken full advantage of, and our children deserve that. I think today is a new day. I really feel that I got all the respect and dignity from the governor's office. I applaud him for it. We still, some things need to happen, and then his office and the legislature see if maybe we can't work out to have a better system, a combine of both public schools and private schools.
Isidro, thank you so much for sharing, all of that. And let me say, obviously, here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, we are very proud of our Texas history, right? And we do realize that, as in all history, right, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. But that all needs to be told, right? And what really needs to be told is those, as I was mentioning from the very beginning, those stories of the bravery and the courage of our Tejano patriots, and not only the Tejano patriots of old, but the Hispanic patriot, very proud Americans that work every single day to make Texas the best place on earth. So with that, Cassy, I'd like to give you the last word, because I know that we're running close on time. So, we've kind of dominated the conversation a little bit. So come in and give us some words before we go into questions.
I'm enjoying it, but I've hearing y'all's stories and talking to Perla as well, and seeing the mama bears that are out there that are getting involved in schools and TSA. I'm not flying anywhere right now. PTA, sorry. Getting involved in their child's education. I have nieces and nephews, I have children, and I think, making sure that we're involved, and we're seeing states that have implemented school choice programs like Florida, right? Arizona, was it Nevada, Illinois? So to see that we can have this, we have 30 days, right? A lot can happen in 30 days, but if we can make this happen in Texas, that is just life-changing. Again, it's not wiping away public school education. Look, I'm proud, but I think there's choices out there. I think parents need to have that ability to decide their children's future, and just like your stories, hearing your story as well. So at the end of the day, we have to get involved, engaged, talk to your members, talk to Texas Leg. I applaud the governor for what he's doing today, and just stay involved, stay engaged. And so again, thank you for leading the effort, Rafa, and what your team is doing as well. And just get involved, get engaged. And I think this is I don't want people to think that school choice is a bad stigmatism, because it's not. It's just empowering the parents and giving educational freedom to their families and to their children.
Very well said. Thank you, Cassy. So leaving us on that note, I want to open it up for questions
May I show one more thing? I want to make one more
quickly
point.
so we can get the audience to
Can I
participate
show
a little bit.
that last slide, please? And this is just to drive a point home. We all know, I drove from Houston. That's the name of our city. We all know Sam Houston. I had the honor of having in my hand a document where he signed, actually 1824, and I got to question that, but he signed it President. And so I asked the person that's the historian for the state of Texas, I asked him, okay, what was he president of? I already knew. He's the president of the Republic. And then I said, wow, and I'm touching his document. I said, who was the first vice president? He didn't know that he was Lorenzo de Zavala. Why? Why don't we know that? It doesn't take away from Sam Houston that we mention his friend and partner and the vice president, the first vice president of the Republic. So whenever we mention Travis and drawing the line on the sand, I'm going to make it real quick. We should also mention Gregorio Esparza. Gregorio Esparza died in the Alamo. The night before the siege, knowing that the siege was going to happen, his wife, Maria Josefa, comes into the Alamo with her 3 kids. Why did they come in, knowing that the siege was going to happen? Because they survived, they told the story. Santana did not kill any of the females or children nor slaves. Family unity. They wanted to die together. We talk about core values. That's what brings all of us together. Our history, our rich history. I don't want to change the history. I embrace the rich history that is taught. I embrace it. But it must be expanded to include the contributions of the Hispanics.
Absolutely. Thank you, Isidro. Very well said. And we here at TPPF certainly agree with that, and we are going to advocate for that to happen. So at this point, I do want to open it up to questions so that we can get some audience participation. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Gloria Cisneros Lenore. I appreciate everybody being here for polite conversation where we're not divisive. I would like to mention a couple of things. Number one, rural districts are starving from the last, because of the cutting of funding from the last session. And I want to ask the panel, ESA, we are looking at having state funds that come from taxes going to the church. What about the trespassing of church and state?
So yes, I can handle that question. So there's not a violation there because the money is not going from the government to the church, okay? And the education savings account, at least the way it's been envisioned, is that money is basically held in trust for the parents to choose how they want to use that money. And that money could be used either for the school of their choice, private, public, charter, what have you, or for education services, right? So education savings account, by its very definition, is a very flexible mechanism. But because the money is not transferred directly from the government to a church, there is no violation. The money is being held by the government, and parents are given the opportunity to direct that money to what is best for their children. Next question.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Perla Hopkins, and I am a public school mom, a Texas certified teacher, a military veteran. And I wanted to point out that there's another unique population of students here in the state of Texas, and that is our military-connected students. There are over 2 million of us veterans that call Texas home. And as we all know, our military is uniquely talented and very diverse. By the year 2030, according to the Department of Education, 30% of all public school students in the nation will be Hispanic, so that's roughly 18 million plus. And we need to also advocate for those military-connected kiddos. In Texas, we have Education Chapter 162, Education Code, and it is the Military Interstate Compact for the educational opportunity of military children. And we're asking for the governor and the legislature to make sure that there is an update to that code so that TEA can better educate our school districts that are, we've talked about not all school districts, all schools. A lot of them are doing a great job, but there are a lot of schools that are not, a lot of districts, and so we always want to make sure that we are advocating for every single student. And Mr. Garza, thank you so much for representing your organization, and I want to share that I hope that every elected school board member that is a part of LULAC is indeed fighting for our children's best interest, for a quality education that's centered on reading, writing, math, civics, and our rich history, like you just explained, because indeed our children, our Hispanic students, are being especially made to feel ashamed about their faith, their culture, and a lot of that has to do with the inappropriate content that some of these trustees, unfortunately, are passing through, and the superintendents. So I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and the governor, and everyone that's willing to speak up about divisiveness and just awkward topics, because our children matter that much. And Ms. Garcia, thank you for coming all this way as well, and thank you to your whole family for everything that you do for the state of Texas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment, and thank you for your service and for the service of all the men and women that serve in our country's armed forces. And I'm sure that all your concerns are going to be considered in the legislature in this very special session that we're going to be dealing with parental empowerment. Any other questions at this point? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Fidel Acevedo.
You have a microphone right there.
And just to bring to light parental empowerment, we have been here before. And we have also had the situation with the voucher program. We've been there before. The problem is not just problematic at all levels. It is, why are we dividing our students? Our parents of Latinos or any other minority that wants to have the choice to go to a certain school where it's dictated by boundaries. Okay? So how is the legislature going to solve this great, massive movement of Latinos here in the state of Texas by boundaries that, as we know how gerrymandering works in the Texas Legislature? How are we going to do that for all our students that we have right now? Yet, I believe in choice. My parents made that for me, and I'm 82 years old, to send me to Catholic school versus public school. Because of what? They didn't have bilingual classes, okay? So this moving forward to bilingual classes, when they finally came on board, we had teachers that were not certified. And I hate to pick on certain folks that were not certified, but then again, when I sat there to monitor those bilingual classes, well, it's a shame when a person's trying to run a bilingual class and can't speak the language that these kids are in. The same thing here. There's a big problem with choice if you cannot give these young folks that opportunity from the get-go, and there's not enough money in the budget, even if it's whatever amount of money there is right now, It wasn't funding public schools. And if public schools are failing, then that should be our first choice, to fix our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So, and then I would simply say that, first of all, I think that there are many intelligent legislators in Texas, and they're going to be deliberating those very points that you brought up. And I do believe that choice is very important, right? And quite honestly, that's what some of us are advocating for, is to making sure that the most options become available to those parents to make choices, that they make choices for their children. And I also agree with you, and we've said it here at this stage, and we've said it many times from Texas Public Policy Foundation, is that we value the public school system. The public school system is very important, but we also cannot be blind that the public school system does need some improvement in some aspects. And some of that could be resolved by money and by injecting more money into the budget. But some of them, I think, transcend budgetary issues, right? And at the end of the day, I personally believe that why on earth should we send students to schools that we know are failing? Okay, and that also because they live in a certain zip code. I mean, that I'm sorry, to me that just personally that doesn't make any sense. And I also think that what parent would not want more options for the better education for their children? I mean, I think that that's something not only Hispanic parents, but parents of all backgrounds. And so I'm just going to leave it with that. So I think we'll just take two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
So with voter turnout for school board elections being less than 10% across the country, less than 8% here in Travis County, Williamson County, and Hayes County specifically, what can y'all do better or what can we do better to engage community more? Because with those numbers, clearly we're not engaged in community when it comes to our public schools. So what can y'all do better? What can we do better to engage community? Especially whenever it comes to these school board elections.
You guys want to jump into that? I mean, obviously, Cassy, you have a position, and you say Isidro, you have a position as well.
Well, there's many factors. It's a very important factor. If we had every parent, or half of the parent, or a third of the parent, or a tenth of a parent to be engaged, our schools would be much better. Our students would learn more, get the maximum. But in this session that we're looking at, I think what we want to do is we want to zero in on a few critical issues. Not that that is not critical; it's very important, but it's much more difficult to legislate that. And so we're looking at what are the few things, handful, where there's possibly areas where we will agree. As a matter of fact, Rafael, Sunday, were we not all on the same page?
We were.
We might still be. And the legislators don't know. My dear friend Richard Raymond, I haven't been able to share that because I want to make sure that if I can't be satisfied, why would I go and promote it? Yeah. And if he can't be satisfied, why would he want to mess with me and try to promote it amongst the legislature? I think we answered that, and is not one of the critical free.
But let me, Cassy, let's bring you in, and specifically on that point about more participation in selecting the school board members, right? Because I mean, obviously, we live in a representative democracy, right? And it's a republic, and we vote for all these elected officials, and I think that that's very important, right? Is getting to know who is it that you're actually voting for, and unfortunately, the school board members are at the very bottom of the ticket when you go to vote, and they don't really know. A lot of people don't know exactly who's running and why they're running.
That's why I say we all know this. It's important to vote. It's important to get involved. Know who's running your school board. Also, elections with HRT, Hispanic Republican Texas. That's what we're doing. We're looking for candidates all up and down the ballot, from the White House to the courthouse. And school elections are so important. And also investing money. I mean, Republicans were outspent by Democrats, and so it's hard to these folks that.
But I do want to say that this is a nonpartisan issue,
Yes.
right? So number one, education is a nonpartisan issue,
Right.
as far as I believe, and also participation in government, is also a nonpartisan issue. So I want to keep that on the nonpartisan level.
Yeah, I don't mean to get political or anything like that, but it's so important as parents to get involved, and we look at school board elections, and you're right, when they go out there and vote, they don't go all the way down from top to bottom. They just go and pick, and then they're out of there, and that's why we talk about the elections being so low. We need to do a better job and get involved up and down the ballot there, especially with our school board elections.
Okay. All right. So thank you all very much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I think that we're out of time. So we're out of time. Thank you all for coming, for making the time to come and share with us. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Giselle and Sharon from Wisconsin for coming. And if you had a taco, please have another taco and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rafa.